Howdy, howdy, Patriots. I am late, but I am here. Still need to adjust the camera just a little bit. It's hard to tell on this screen exactly how much of the gloriousness that is this gets to come across, but I think you can get enough in. Sorry. All right. Today, I am going to be enjoying Glenfiddich 14-year single malt scotch with a aging room Nicaragua Maestro 6x52 on the ring gauge, 6x52 on the ring gauge. We're just going to dive right in. It's a little windy. Actually, it's supposed to be like 80 here today in North Texas. Tomorrow's supposed to be 40. Texas weather is like playing bingo. It's going to be 80, it's going to be 40, 53, 27, bingo. All right. We're going to talk about the cigar and the scotch, and then we're going to get into why you are all really here, all 4 or 5 of you, to listen to me ramble on about what I think about what's going on today. I'm going to use my Cassetti multi-cutter on the V-cut setting. Actually, this is a torpedo style. V-cut is actually pretty cool, like that. The Cassetti is a great multi-cutter. It's got V-cut, guillotine cut, and a punch all in one. I love it. Mrs. Political Patriot got it for me. All right, we're going to go ahead and glass some of this up. Now, this pairing brings together the smooth bourbon cask influence of Glenfiddich 14-year-old with rich Nicaraguan tobaccos out of the aging room cigar. Now, together, Glenfiddich is Glenfiddich. It's a Speyside Scotch. Speyside is on the east side of Scotland, kind of northeast, I guess you'd say. Typically known for low smoke, low peat, both the Highland and Speyside. Islay is generally heavy smoke, heavy peat. That's on the southwest side of the country. And then you have Lowland and Campbelltown. They're kind of in between. Now, the Glenfiddich is aged in ex-bourbon barrels and finished in new American oak. It has some very warm and gentle notes of vanilla and toffee and caramel. It's got hints of ripe fruit, apples, pears, some gentle spice, and maybe a kind of a creamy mouthfeel. Go ahead and, as you can see, already had this bottle open. So, but when you put your nose to it, I mean, you can smell the apples and the pears. It's not just on the palate. It's in the aroma as well. It's got a real nice kind of subtle, oaky kind of backbone with a really nice, sweet finish. Just going to go ahead and have some. There is almost no alcohol burn at all. I have to look again. I'm pretty sure this is, 86 proof, 43% alcohol by volume. And it is a wonderful scotch. I love Glenfiddich 14. And it is a scotch that somebody could definitely, if they're breaking into the scotch world, that could be a good place for you to start. Heavy, smoky, peaty scotches, which is what a lot of scotch drinkers like. You'll try that and you'll be like, I don't ever want to have scotch again. But you have to realize there are 5 scotch making regions in Scotland, and they are all a little different. While Speyside and the Highlands are pretty close, and then you have Islay, which is like the other side of the spectrum, and then you have the Campbelltown and the Lowlands there in between. There's not nearly as many distilleries in Campbelltown and Lowland regions as there are in the Highlands and Speyside. That is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful Scotch. Now, the aging room Nicaraguan is a full-bodied Nicaraguan puro. What that means is the filler, the binder, and the wrapper are all from Nicaragua. You will find in cigars, they tend to kind of blend things together to get certain profiles. But anytime you see a puro, that is one that all the leaves come from the same country. And it will offer us up, I guarantee you, oh, lighter's still in my pocket. Rookie mistake. Some really nice deep flavors of dark chocolate. Yeah, you can even pick up a little bit. There's a little kind of an earthy spice to it. A little bit of leather, a little bit of cedar. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll try not to focus too much on this, but I did want to give everybody a really good feeling for what I'm doing here. Wonderful volume of smoke coming off that stick. And yeah, you get kind of an espresso kind of flavor on the palate. There's a touch of sweetness, maybe some like dried fruit and caramel. And it's very well balanced. And this pairing really kind of works because I've done these before. You know, I always test before I jump out. There's a shared sweetness, the bourbon with the bourbon cask influence. I mean, with the Glenfiddich brings out the vanilla and caramel notes that kind of match with the sticks, hints of dried fruit, cocoa, and maybe a little caramel in there. What that was. There's a balance of strength. The Scotch is kind of medium bodied with a really nice smooth character. Like I said, it's an extremely smooth Scotch, very little, if any, alcohol burn to it. It does make a great match for the bold yet refined nature of the Aging Room Nicaragua, which is the brainchild of my buddy, Raphael Nodal. He is the one that came up with these Aging Room sticks here. This was the Nicaragua. You've got the Sonata. All of them have something to do with music. This is called the Maestro. He's very into the classical musics and all of the accompaniments. You should follow him on Instagram or something like that. He's always got something really nice going. Anyway, there is kind of a spice and complexity. The subtle spice from the American oak finish in the Scotch complements the cigar's kind of earthy, peppery kick, but without overpowering it. Sometimes you'll have one that overpowers the other, and you really can't enjoy the one that's getting overpowered. It's really great when you have a really nice balanced pairing that it makes your day a little better. When you take a nice sip of the Scotch and then you take in that puff, hold it for just a second, and then let it out. Maybe get a little retro inhale there. There's a little pepper in the retro inhale, maybe even just a little bit of like a lemon zest. And that's where you blow the smoke out your nose. As you do, you will pick up things there that may not be on the palate. But you do get just that nice creamy depth that both of them offer. It's a great combination. And I would highly recommend trying these two out. The Aging Room, even though it is a darker wrapper, is not overpoweringly strong as far as strength goes. It'd be a real easy smoke. But you could pair the Glenfiddich if you wanted to go with a light wrapper, like an Olivet O Series, G Series, something like that. it would still go really great as well because those have a creamier profile with the Connecticut light colored leaf. Now, what the rest of you have been here for, have come here for. This last week has been very interesting. I don't know any other way to put it. There's been a lot of shit go down. We've had the Democrats trying to storm the Department of Education, and they were held off by one security guard. That, you know, you always hear people talking about, yeah, well, if the conservatives decided to rise up and just overtake the liberals, what would happen? Well, one security guard held off all those congressmen, and he just wasn't stay. He just stood his ground. He just stood there and like, I wish you had a cigar. That'd have been great. Sorry, ma'am, can't let you in. Now, if you follow me, which I hope you do. If you don't, you need to. If you just stumbled across this and like, what's this fool talking about? Before I say anything else, I voted for Trump all 3 times. And I have, while I wasn't, just like one of those diehard conspiracy theorists about 2020, I'm like, yeah, there were some things that went on that were not quite right. I don't know that it was, because especially when you're talking about a guy that had ran for president like 2 or 3 times before in Biden and had never been able to get more than 5% of his own party. Then he got more votes than any other president in history. And he did it from his basement. They rolled him out like once a week. But anyway, and I've been on board with most of what Trump has had going on, MAGA movement or whatever, but I'm not what you'll hear me or what you'll read that I say, what I say on X, however you want to say it, is I'm not completely down with everything, but that doesn't mean that I don't support him. There's a lot of people in this, I call them the rabid MAGAs, and that's the ones that doesn't matter what he is the conservative Jesus. Him and I guess that would make Elon the Baptist, something like that. But I am unbiased and pragmatic enough. I am a card-carrying libertarian. I say that quite often because I gave up the two-party system. But I know which side my bread is buttered on. So, like I saw Christy Noem today on down in Guantanamo. She was there to greet the first flight of aliens that showed up. I thought that was awesome. It's great. I like her. I like her a lot. And I hope it continues that way. I'm on board with the illegal immigration, strengthening the border, fentanyl. We have to control our borders, all this DEI stuff. USAID, I have said the entire time I've been doing this program that we have got to stop sending money overseas, not only to people that hate us apparently, but also to all the crazy shit like the transgender opera in Colombia or something like that. Sesame Street in Iraq. I don't care about Sesame Street. I was very happy when he came into office and he unleashed FEMA to start sending money to Western North Carolina and resources. That was being held up, no doubt, by Biden and the previous secretary. So you can't come down on FEMA too hard, because, what's your choice? Quit your job. That's your choice. And how many of you would do that? Or you just be like, okay. When you have that decision to make, you're like, let's see. How quickly could I find another job? But, he came out in support of the Second Amendment, and we need to have something that strengthens the Second Amendment. Yes, we do. Constitutional carry nationwide. And yeah, I support the handgun age limit at 18. If you're going to do some guns, do them all. Lawfare, on and on and on. I have been concerned about the slash and burn tactics being used by DOGE. I am a very traveled individual. I spent 21 years in the military, active in reserve, combat deployed twice, disabled veteran, spent 15 years in the corporate tax world, both private industry and with CPA firms. So I have a lot of experience. And I am a diehard supporter of Milton Friedman. I am sure he has an office in heaven where he is making sure everything stays on budget and right. So let me put this, and I even in the notes, in my notes. Well, hell. Okay. That was my microphone. And I put this in all capital letters. I am not saying I don't agree with the cuts. This is a public service announcement issued by the Political Patriot. I say that to extinguish the torches of the rabid MAGA people that will be in my feed being like, it is possible. Now, tell you, it is possible to not agree with 100% of what somebody does. I know that's a novel concept, but we used to make fun of the Dems for doing that very same thing. They believed anything that the lamestream media told them. They believed anything that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer told them. Don't do that. That's your takeaway from that. Don't do that now. Look at stuff, be pragmatic, and be like, I support him overall, but I'm not really crazy about that one thing. It's possible, right? I am concerned that cutting too much too fast can cause ripples throughout the broader economy. I was talking with one of the people that I follow on X, and I really enjoy watching his posts. He's very detailed. They're long posts. You really have to do a lot of reading, but they're thorough. And so I posted that very question to him last night or this morning. And he was like, yeah, that could be, but that could be a good thing. Yeah, but it could be a bad thing. Saying it could be a good thing means that this also could be a bad thing. And I'm sorry if the wind is getting in. Yeah, like I said, when I started, it's supposed to be 80 here today, and I can already tell temperature's dropping. It's going to be 40 tomorrow, 45, something like that. And that was, I did this just to put the more vocal supporters, to rest. But you have to realize that it can happen. Now, they will say, Elon, he's smart. We won't let that happen. Really. USAID went from 14,000 employees on Monday to 300 employees on Tuesday. I'll let you do the calculation on that. Now, I agree. It's a cesspool. It needed to be cleaned up. I just worry about those ripples that I was talking about earlier. He has bragged about all of the thousands of contracts and the billions of dollars that he has cut. And, we all agree we've been spending way too much money. And while we were in continuing to get in debt every single year, and we'll probably will be again this year. I don't even think they will balance the budget for the year this year. Won't happen. Clinton did it once in his 8 years. Nobody else has done it, I don't think, since Andrew Jackson. When Andrew Jackson left office, the country was out of debt, period. He paid it all off because he ran it like he ran his house. Anyway, he highlights, you know, the red meat that he knows the MAGA people will be after, like DEI. And that's me too. I'm wholeheartedly behind it. All right. That has been a crock of shit that has infected every part of the government. And where it's most seen is when the first assassination attempt on Trump, and you had the people there that they obviously had no idea what they were doing, you know. But bless the ones that did, that, you know, took charge, everything. But also the military. I don't really care to see a dude dressed up in a skirt trying to recruit other people to come in the military. Spent 21 years, man. When I first got in, it wasn't even don't ask, don't tell at that point. So there's been a large change in the military since then. Don't ask, don't tell was like, I don't know, 12 years or so. Maybe even when Obama came in, he got rid of that. But, you know, and when I was in the Navy, I was on my ship that I was on, USS Ainsworth, which is now it became a Turkish frigate, and then they now turned it into a museum over in Turkey. But we had some reservists on board, and one of those guys actually in the evening, at night or whatever, he got caught feeling a cook's buttocks while the cook was sleeping in his bed, and the cook caught him. And he was one of those guys. He's really devout, religious, you know, and he just could not bring himself to turn the guy in. And of course, because back then, guy knew his career be over, and he's like, I'm not going to say nothing, but you need to stay the hell away from me while you're on this ship. And he did. You know, it's one of those things. It's like, I don't care what you do, just don't bring it to me. So anyway, so some of the cuts have been very vague. You know, we know DEI, but then we hear, yeah, we cut these contracts that were administration. All right, what does that mean? Don't know. And now you have to realize that this is just a very high level, unbiased review of the pitfalls and benefits of rapid contraction. And I am not an economic professor. I've just had a lot of experience out in business. And people need to realize that all this does not take place in a vacuum. There will be unintended consequences to every decision. And people need to know that. They need to actually feel that. You feeling me? Just so that you know all the possibilities. Now, depending on how the cuts are implemented, which so far we have seen slash and burn, is what I call it. There are some potential downsides. You know, scotch starts working on your tongue. Kind of makes you sound like Jim Carrey. I don't like him, but I heard he's got a new movie out where it's completely different than anything he's ever done. It's much more dramatic. And while I'd like to see it, I just like, he's crazy. I don't know if I want to go see it. It seems like it'd be a good movie though. Anyway, back to this. It could cause reduced economic growth. You need to understand that. That is one of the possibilities. It is a pretty high possibility depending on how they implement this. Government spending is a key component of GDP, gross domestic product, all the output of all the everything. And if cuts are too aggressive, they can slow down economic growth, especially if they reduce the public investment in infrastructure, education, or healthcare. infrastructure. We had the bridge collapse up in Minnesota a few years ago. It's still not been built back. Had the bridge that collapsed over the Chesapeake Bay after that, and they're saying that that's going to be years. Or what about people that lived on one side of that bridge that they worked on the other side of that bridge? It's a long ass way all the way up and back down around. Unless you're working remote, which the rabid MAGA seem to be against that too, unless it's them doing the remoting. But job losses. We're not just talking about federal employees. They all cheered when the 13,700 people got handed their pink slips. They're like, yeah, fucking slugs. But just take a moment, step back, take a drink. And even a that also, they canceled all these contracts, but these contracts were not for nothing. There were people involved. Either services were delivered or products were delivered. And now those contracts have been canceled. So that affects workers in both the public and the private sector. Cuts can and have led to layoffs in the public sector, which can have a ripple effect out into the private businesses that may rely on these government contracts for a significant part of their revenue. This can increase unemployment and reduce consumer spending. If you lose your job, you can't spend as much money. By the way, I have Texas A&M, kick on, Texas A&M v. Missouri on here, and it's a really tight game, 61-60. My Aggies, we didn't do well in football this year, but we're number 10 in basketball this year. We're doing all right. We're 17-5, 6-3 in the conference. So got some sports in there too. But anyway, back to what I was saying. This can lead to increase in the unemployment rate, reduce consumer spending, which creates a cyclical effect, and this also increases the drain on employment security, employment payments, unemployment payments. People get laid off. They may be laid off for a long time. You don't know, because let's just say it's one of these DEI things, right? And they cancel that contract, and you had a person, they didn't have anything to do with DEI. They were an accountant or whatever, and they get laid off. Now then they're going to be off until they get another job. And what are they going to do? Draw unemployment. Where's the unemployment come from? It can also lower consumer demand. When government employees and contractors lose their job or experience pay cuts, they tend to spend less, just like I said, which can hurt businesses and reduce demand for goods and services, which goes back to number 2. And that demand for goods and services has nothing to do with like in this instance, DEI. They're not buying as much stuff at Walmart or Target or Kroger or the gas station or wherever. And so you tend to see economic activity slow down. Oh, yeah, 63, 62, man. Oh, we got a minute and 17 seconds left. Also, and I know there are a lot of MAGA people don't care about this one, but it also can weaken public services. And while you may not take advantage of a particular service that the government offers, there are people out there that do, and there are people that rely on that. I have a niece, and when I say niece, I mean she's almost 40, but many years ago, she was in a car accident and she is paralyzed from the rib cage down, and she lives on SSI. And when I say she's paralyzed from the rib cage down, also it affects her hands. Her hands stay kind of drawn up all the time. So it's hard for her. She does drive. She has to have a knob on the wheel or whatever. She got one of the trucks that lifts her up and picks her in. Fortunately, My brother-in-law, he's been very successful without a college degree. He's a plumber, and makes more money than everybody else in the family put together, I think. But she is an adult and she has to live off SSI. We start cutting back. We may have to cut back there. Now you're hurting people. You're hurting people that have nothing to do with DEI. And I say that just to say, realize actions have consequences, and they may have unanticipated consequences that have nothing to do with what you were trying to get done. Cuts to services, again, like education, healthcare, public safety, they can hurt long-term productivity and social stability. And that leads to worsening economic outcomes in the future. The Constitution is something I'm somewhat familiar with. I know people know I do this, but I have a law degree. I'm not a practicing lawyer. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't pretend to be one. It was beneficial in my tax work. Holy shit. Now we're down by one, 64-63. I'm sorry. 50 seconds left. Oh, foul. Okay. Now back to what I was saying. The Constitution, the reason for the Constitution, which all the MAGA people, I'm sure, are completely clear about, is that it is the wall, the barrier, the constraint on the federal government and what they can do to us. But it also charges them with the enumerated powers, the things that they have to take care of. And they have to handle these, and they have to have financial resources to handle these things. Coining money, so it's common. National defense, having an army, mail system. Well, I guess you could call the Postal Service a mail system, but it's the common system of laws. Otherwise, if we don't have if we cut the government to the point where it is neutered completely, why do we have it? Why do we have a constitution? If we don't have a government, we don't have a need for a constitution. Now we're just 50 independent states. And I think I said this last week. As far as I'm concerned, fine. I live here in Texas, drop the bridges over the Red River and say F all y'all. We got we are in the top 10 in GDP in the world. Just us, not the rest of the country. That's fine with us. We got oil and gas, we got agriculture, we got beef, so I can keep having my ribeyes. We got technology, we got Tesla, we got space. Yeah. Go ahead. All right, whatever. But you got to realize there are consequences to the actions. There is a potential, and probably a good potential, for the risk of recession. We were teetering on the edge when Sleepy Joe left office. And if spending cuts happened too quickly, or during a time of economic downturn, which we weren't downturning, we were already turned, then that can push the economy into recession by reducing overall demand. And if you can imagine, if you there's 2.5 or so, 2.4, something like that, million federal employees. If you put half of them out of work, 1.2 million, and that in turn causes another 3 to 5 million in people getting laid off at either contracting companies or companies that have nothing to do with that, but they provide goods and services to those contracting companies. Now then, you're effed. No matter what Trump does, unless he can generate new economic growth. And this was kind of seen in European countries back in 2008 when the financial crisis then, when austerity measures led to a prolonged economic stalemate. And it also does lead to some increased inequality. This is not racial, this is economic. If spending cuts disproportionately affect social programs, low-income individuals may suffer the most. Again, like my niece, she lives off SSI. If SSI gets cut or goes away, what's she supposed to do? Hopefully, family members would take her in. I think they would, but this is that one example. What about people around the country that are like that? It's no fault of their own. Anyway, this would lead to higher economic inequality, and then we have to think about potential social unrest, kind of like the BLM riots of a few years ago, but no George Floyd, strictly economic. Now, not to say, we all know spending cuts can be beneficial. And we're actually doing pretty good. I was going to try to keep it under 30, but we already not made that. So if the government has excessive debt, reducing spending can help kind of stabilize those finances in the long run. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be some very prolific growing pains before that happens. If the cuts focus specifically on inefficiencies or unproductive programs, then that can improve economic efficiency. And that's what we're hoping happens, right? And if it's paired with policies that encourage, like I said just a minute ago, encourages private sector growth, then the negative effects can be mitigated. But so far, we really haven't seen any of that side of it yet. Trump said he was going to lower the price of eggs on day one. Well, it's like day close to 21 now, like day 15, 16, 17, somewhere around in there. And eggs are still the same price they were. I'm not saying, oh, it's a big failure on his part. I'm just saying, I support him, but I'm just saying, he said this, and it hasn't happened yet. It really all depends on timing, scale, and the focus of the cuts. Elon really has no consequences to any negative effects that I've mentioned. His money insulates him from the issues that will be inflicted on you and me. He's a billionaire. He still has his money. He doesn't care. And he lives in like a $50,000 tiny house on SpaceX property. In my opinion, we need a balanced, pragmatic approach that will be better overall and definitely better than drastic reductions. Too many drastic reductions can have a negative effect on everybody. And I'll ask this. You out there, you, Mr. or Mrs. MAGA, if your employer called a meeting on Monday morning and said, well, X company that provided stuff to the government just cut all of our orders indefinitely, and we're going to have to lay some people off because we can't generate enough money right now to pay everybody, and you got sent home, how would you feel? Would you be like, hell yeah, we're making cuts, we're doing great? Or would you be like, fuck, what am I going to do now? I would say it's probably more of the second one than the first one. Because just like Obamacare, If you remember all the liberals, oh yeah, we got to have Obamacare. Oh, don't worry about it. You're going to get to keep your plan, keep your doctor, your costs are going to go down. And then they interviewed these same people a year later, and they were like, well, I lost my doctor and I lost my plan, and it's costing me $10,000 more a year than it was before Obamacare. I knew costs would go up, but I didn't think my costs would go up. That is the problem. And you may be in a job or industry or whatever that going to be completely insulated from that part of it. But when you start to consider who all is contracted with the federal government, I mean, hell, even McDonald's. McDonald's is a government contractor. You can't work for McDonald's if you had a dishonorable discharge. The government won't let you. That may be just on basis, but I don't know. I didn't get that deep into it, but I do know as a government contractor, you can't have people that work for you that have gotten dishonorable discharges. The government doesn't like that. No. So, what do you think would happen if McDonald's found out that the fry guy had a dishonorable discharge and he didn't tell them about it? They let him go. They're not going to lose their government contract. They're going to let you go. Anyway, not to sound too terrible, I guess, but I hope you may have gotten a little something out of this. I don't know, wander off too far. I tend to chase squirrels a lot, going down the rabbit hole or whatever. But it's just my opinions on how things are going. And I just think that if things continue to go the way they've gone this last week, while you may be like, I'm glad we found all this efficiency and we managed to get rid of this and get rid of that. Fence fighting. It's not even my dogs or dog. I have one. Y'all saw her, Sadie, I think. I post pictures of her. Just trying to lighten the moods. Yes. Aggies win 67-64. If you don't know about Texas A&M, this is going to be the last thing I say before I say goodbye. Texas A&M is an awesome school. If you have a conservative kid, you're a conservative family, it's a great place to send your kids. They have the largest ROTC program in the nation, the core. My wife had a friend, our teaching partner, that she graduate of A&M, and her husband, he had been in the Corps. He is in the Army Reserve. I think he's a captain or a major now. He's also a police officer. And I can't remember if it's his mom and dad or her mom and dad had also both graduated from Texas A&M, and the dad had been in the Corps. Once you get to your junior year, you get your boots, the knee-high cowboy boots kind of things, spurs on them and everything. And the dad had his up on a shelf, decorated up with all of his core stuff. Texas A&M is a great institution. My youngest daughter wants to be a veterinarian. They have like the #1 veterinary school in the country, and that's the only place she ever thinks about going. My oldest daughter graduated from there. My son graduated from West Texas A&M. We're an A&M family. Middle daughter, we'll see. She wants to go to law school. A&M bought TCU's law school off of them over in Fort Worth. So, she's got to have the grades to get in, though. Even though she's got good grades. I don't know if they're that good. The younger daughter, her lowest grade so far is a 93. She has a 93, a 90, either a 96 or 98. And then everything else are hundreds, all of her other classes. She's kind of brilliant, but Anyway, hope you'd enjoyed it. Please hit like, subscribe, share, notify. Definitely want to share it. I started this and picked X because it is the X, and the videos, the live stream comes from Rumble, because that is the most freedom of speech oriented platforms out there. And, of course, Elon has done very well with X. But I definitely want you to share this, let people see it, trying to grow. But until we get to be together again, have a cigar, have some scotch, and remember, freedom reigns.